Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 32 of Sipping Tea with Stacy T. How you doing? Waiting for you to come on in. My goodness, good afternoon. That came in fast and furious. How you doing, Cheryl? Hope everything's going well. And you're relaxing, lounging. I'm gonna wait for other people to come in. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday thus far. Had a good week. We're getting into this fall weather situation. You're relaxing? Good. Hopefully you're laying down somewhere. So how's everybody's week been? Just gonna wait. Oh my goodness, wait a little bit. Gotta get that out of the way. It's that time of the year where people are starting to think of, pumpkin everything. Actually, I think pumpkin stuff has already started to be in the. I'm probably late on that. They've probably been in for a while. Pumpkin spice everything. Pumpkin lattes, pumpkin cheesecake, pumpkin everything. If you don't like pumpkin, I guess it's miserable, but I actually enjoy it. So, all right. It's been a long week, but you made it through. Ready for apple picking? Yeah, it's that season too, except no bees. Sometimes those apple picking situations have nothing but bees everywhere. Hey, Tiffany, how are you doing? Good afternoon. How is it way out there? How's the weather? Warm? We had a couple of actually warm days this week. It was 80 something, but I went outside and it felt hotter than that. The sun was blazing. Was blazing. All right, so again, it's 71 there. It's cooler today here too. So, but yeah, it was in the 80s this week. I was like, okay, and I think it's supposed to be in the 80s again a couple of days this week. So I'm okay with that. I'm all right with 80s. All right, so today's episode is called "The One That Got Away." So we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we do, we're gonna be having this little treat. I haven't had a hot tea in a while, so I will be having. I don't. Okay, there we go. Bigelow salted caramel black tea, and yeah, well, check it out. I do like caramel in general. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what it does. Let's see what it does. Let me do the sniff test. Woo! I don't know. I don't know what this smells. I can't even describe what this smells like. I don't know that it smells like caramel. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. Now I'm nervous. Now I'm legitimately nervous. But we'll sit it in there and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Well, maybe that is what I'm smelling. You might be right, Tiffany. I might be smelling molasses. Sounds good to you? I bet it does. I bet it does. You do like caramel. So yeah, we'll see. I'm smelling it now that it's no, it doesn't smell like molasses. Y'all, I don't know what in the world it smells like, but I'm gonna give it a second because that water is really hot. Y'all know I can't do hot water like that, so give it a minute. Um, couple of quick things. I have had a few of you check in on me about writing. Thank you for accountability. I am still writing. It is. I've done a few chapters this week, so that's actually good. Which means, hey, Kathy, how you doing? Which means it picked up a little bit, so that is good. But yeah, so that's where we're at with that. And I've also been still doing daily lives. What they call them lives on TikTok, and that has been also very interesting. Yeah, it's run the full gamut. That's all that I can tell you on that. So, Kathy, I think you came in after I opened the seal, but I'm doing Bigelow tea, salted caramel black tea. Um, it says on the label, it says yummy caramel tea. It says steep for 4 minutes, so I had to let it go for 4 minutes, y'all. Um, Interesting. So the ingredients that I'm seeing on the back: black tea, natural flavors, which rose hips and chicory root. So I wouldn't consider that to be caramel flavored, but hey, I'm not the maker, right? So let us see what it sounds delicious. See, everybody, I mean, I like caramel. I even like salted caramel, but it doesn't, when I smelled it, it doesn't smell like, even now, nope. It still doesn't smell like it. So I'm nervous, y'all. I'm not gonna lie, I'm nervous to taste it, but it is what it is. Um, Today's episode is one that I think it's actually one that I seems questionable to you. Yeah, the ingredients, right? I was like, okay, that's an interesting an interesting display of flavors, but okay, we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with that. So like I said, today the title of today's episode is The One That Got Away. And I think oftentimes when people think about that, they only think about it from one vantage point. So y'all know I'm not going to just think about it from one vantage point. But I am going to do a little bit of story time, and then we're going to do the typical Stacy thing, which is go back to the past, then come back to the future, right? So I'm just going to give you the definition when people think about the one that got away, and I am using my notebook, y'all. So, and I can't read up close with my glasses. So anyways, it says, refers to someone from the past, a relationship, crush, or even an opportunity that feels unfinished or unforgettable, which I have a hard time with that word, but I'm not going to, we'll go into that at another date. For some, it carries a bittersweet sense of what could have been. For others, it's a reminder of growth, timing, or lessons learned. Okay. So we're going to have a little bit of story time. We're going to go into Stacy and I will say A1 that got away. So, and y'all don't judge me. This is from my 20s. I'm significantly older than that at this point, right? So in any event, I was on this website, a dating website called Plenty of Fish. If you haven't heard of it, it is quite a site. Right? So I was on this site, and for me, y'all know that I'm a writer, and for those of you who watch this later, I'm a writer. I write plays, right? So words are my thing. It's kind of my safe space. It's the thing I love. And when I would go on these dating sites, when I say I would do the absolute most, I was doing the absolute most. What do I mean by that? They have a series of questions that are on every dating site. So if you've never been on one, you know, you fill out the general things like, you know, how tall are you? What is your faith? What is your race? And you don't have to fill out some of these, but I do, right? And then they'll maybe ask you, like, what are you looking for? So you can say, you know, you're looking for a man of a certain height, of a certain religion, like a certain distance apart, all the things, right? You have the ability to kind of check some boxes. But then, but then they have this like kind of question and answer section. And when they ask the questions, they do give a certain amount of characters. Let me tell y'all, for every single question, I was having to delete because I had way too much to say. And I was like, okay, Stacy, you need to, they're trying to get you to wrap this up a little bit, like stay a little bit more clear and more, you know, succinct and to the point. So that was a challenge for me. But when I say I was doing the most, I mean, I want to write down every single thing that I needed to express, that I wanted them to know off the jump. So things like, you know, if you're not a Christian, don't even bother to send me messages, like that type of thing. Or if you smoke, I can't, I'm not interested. So those types of things, right? So I was writing all of that. Now, I get why in my mind that was a good choice. That was a logical choice to do that, right? Because I don't want to waste my time. I'm not trying to waste your time. If we don't align, then we don't align, and let's keep it pushing. So that was my mentality. However, and I get it, like, to a certain degree. However, the problem is when you're on a site with a bunch of people that are trying to, you know, date, what they're trying to do is look good, right? So if you're trying to look good, then you can become a transformer. What do you mean by that, Stacy? What I mean is this. If you tell people all the things you like, you tell the people all the things you don't, what do you think that they're going to present to you if they find you attractive? Oh, no, I don't do that. Oh, yes, I'm a Christian, blah, 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 right? So as I was like getting to know certain people, you match with certain people as you're navigating it. And, they'll say based on just your profile, like the things that you filled out, like the fill in the blank sections, more than meets the eye. Yes, more than meets the eye. Robots in disguise. These were fools in disguise. But in any event, so I'm navigating this, and as I'm like getting to know all these people, potentially through the matches first, you can look through all the profiles that you want as well. But the way that they're designed, or they were, I haven't been on them in years, but the way that they are designed, the intent was for you to fill out certain sections, and based on those sections, they would present to you some matches as well, right? So they did that, and initially I was like, okay, let me just go through these matches, and then I was realizing these matches were a bunch of foolishness. Like, again, I was in my 20s, so for me, one of my criteria, and y'all don't judge me, y'all. Well, you can judge me; it's fine. If you feel the need to judge me, it's fine. But if you were not 6 feet, I was not even trying to fool with you. Like that was just one of the things for me that I was like, yeah. Again, I was in my 20s, y'all. But I was like, yeah, no, if you're not 6 feet, no, I'm not interested. Hey, Alexandra. Yes, thank you, girl. Thank you. And answer my text, my last text. While you're at it. But I'm glad that you're here. So, I as I'm getting to know these people. Yeah, short kings. Yeah, I know, but I know you love them short kings. Shout out. I give shout out. But I was like, if you're not 6 feet, I can't even mess with you. And I'm 5'4", y'all. 5'4". And I really want my have to, but I'll say I'm 5'4", right? So it was ridiculous for that to be a stipulation, but in truth, most of the men that do find interest in me or approach me have been like 6'5", 6'4", 6'3", right? That just tends to be what happens. So coming back, I was filling out the forms and getting to know different guys, based on just conversations only online, y'all. I wasn't giving out my number. Like, no, you're no. You can email me. That's even first. I did it just on the site because they give you an opportunity to talk kind of behind the scenes, and so I was doing that. Then they were giving you the option of having your email, and so I did a lot of email. And there were a few guys that I was like, okay, they seem normal. They don't seem entirely crazy. I'm still not going to tell them anything about like the real, where I was telling them the town I grew up in as opposed to where I was living, like that type of thing. So that they couldn't really track me. Right. But I was getting to know them. And so that's kind of how that was going. Right. So I ended up meeting this one guy, and there was just something about him that really stood out from all the other guys that were on there. And he was like, can we have a conversation? And I was like, okay. So I actually gave him my real legitimate phone number. Right. So we were talking and talking and talking, getting to know each other. But let me tell y'all, the first phone call, when he called me and I picked up the phone, when I say his voice was so deep that it literally reverberated. Like, I was like, oh my. Yes, y'all, I was in my 20s. Yes, I said, oh my. Right? When he spoke to me. All right, y'all. Before I continue on, let me try this tea because it is getting crazy dark. I mean, it is dark, y'all. I don't think I'm gonna be able to show you. Let me see, without spilling. Okay, it is dark. So let's try it. It's not bad, but I don't taste the caramel. Okay, now I'm tasting it a little bit. So for those of you who just came in, this tea that I'm having is Bigelow salted caramel black tea. And anything, by the way, that any teas that you all suggest, feel free to let me know. I try to have a tea that I've not had before and expose my palate to new teas. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad, but it's not as, I don't know. It doesn't taste as caramel. It's like a hint of caramel. So it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm going to send you some tea that looks like chemical soup. Yes, just not herbal tea. I can't do herbal teas. They give me headaches. She said that looks like chemical soup. Between you and Tiffany telling me what not to ingest. I love it. I love it. Y'all are hilarious. Yeah, I can't do any herbal teas. I get headaches. I can't do them. I don't know what it is, but whoo, yeah. So in any event, let me come back to the story. So he calls me, and his voice is like the deepest voice that I've heard. I'm talking like Barry White, deep voice, right? So we're talking and getting to know each other, and literally the same person that he presented himself to be online was the same person that I was getting to know over the phone. And I was like, wow, he's like, seems like a really good guy. But I had one hesitation, y'all. And if you've ever done online dating, this is a very real hesitation. All right, now keep it PG. Oh Lord, we're looking out for you, and I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you, Tiffany. I do. Sipping tea after dark. Y'all are stupid. Anyways, so I yes, decaf. I can do decaf too. Y'all are hilarious. So I ended up, again, like I said, there's times when you meet somebody and you just have like a cool vibe from the person. But if you've ever done online dating, there's like one big no-no in online dating, and that is the no picture dating person. Right? So yes, y'all, I was in my 20s. Again, don't judge me. Well, again, you're probably judging me, so that's fine. So this guy had no picture online, and his reasoning, right, his logic was, Stacy, I really wanted to have a picture on there, and because he had like I don't know, some picture of something. He was from Boston, so something Boston. It might have been like Fenway Park or something. I don't remember. It was either Fenway Park or what is that zoo? Like whatever. Like it was one of those two, Franklin Park, right? So it was one of those two things. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I feel comfortable. Like I can't. You can see what I look like. I had pictures, y'all. I told you, I filled up my profile to the most. I had all sorts of pictures. I had pictures that were full length because I'm a plus size girl. I don't want you thinking I pulled an okie doke on you. Like you're like, I saw your face and your face looked thinner, and then your body was doing a lot of this. I was wanting something like this. I'm like, no, we're not going to do any of that. So I want you to see exactly what you're getting. With this guy, there was no picture. And he had said he had contacted the site because when he put it up, there was an issue and they said that they were going to fix it and they never had. And he sent me, again, he was like trying to prove that he was not trying to be funny or whatever. And this is before the times of FaceTime and all that. So before you start like saying, well, he had all these, okay, potentially he did, but there was no picture. So when he was like, Stacy, I'm telling you, he's like, I get it. You probably think I'm an ugly dude. You probably think I'm shorter than I'm telling you. And I was like, yes. My filter was not at premium level back then, y'all. So I was like, yeah, I really do think you're trying to pull an okie doke. I can't tell what you look like. And I said, in my mind, I was thinking, well, maybe God blessed you with that voice, the voice of angels, because there's nothing else going on. So, in any event, he was like, I'm going to tell you, like, we just need to meet. It'll be a good vibe. It'll be a good vibe. So just meet me. And he's like, I'm telling you, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Sir, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. For real. Okay. I mean, every dude's going to say that, right? Like, what dude's going to be like, yeah, I'm actually ugly. And again, everybody's beautiful in God's sight, right? But there has to be an attraction level when you're dating someone. So I was just like, I don't know. I really was like, I'm getting a good vibe. Run, girl. I'm getting a good vibe from this dude. Should I trust my gut or my gut? Let me tell you, when you're in your 20s and you're not as connected to God as you should be, your discernment is wonky. That discernment meter is like, I mean, it's all over creation, right? So I was like, I don't know if I should really trust myself with this. But against my better inclination, all over the place, Tiffany. Let me tell you, when you're not connected to God, you can't, what you discern and what you don't discern, it's rough, right? So I decided, even though my head was saying run, like I think it was Cheryl that wrote run, that was my head, but something was like, no, like get to know this dude, even if he's not like as fine as he keeps saying he is, or as attractive as he says he is, just get to know the dude. So I set up a date, right? We set up a ring around the rosy, all over the place for real. Ring around the rosy is right. So I set up this date with this man, and what I did was this: I set up a date with him at the movie theater in Boston, in downtown Boston, on Tremont Street, for two reasons. One, because it was like big, it's very, very visible, right? But there was lots of exits. Lots of exits. I know the area very well. My aunt at the time was living not far, like 2 blocks away from there. So if rubber hit the road, I was gonna go right to that theater district and knock on her door. But also my older sister dropped me off. I'm sorry, my child said that. And she put that. Okay, well, tell her I said hello. I'm glad she's participating. I was strategic. 100% strategic. This could be a crazy person, right? And not for nothing, my mom had me so paranoid. You meeting these people online? They could all be murderers or kill. You don't know any of these people. And while you could meet somebody on the street and they could be like that, it did make me more heightened, right? But I've always been like that. I think my family's always like been strategic, like paying attention to like things like that. If we're telling, this would be completely, if it were me telling, this would be a completely different story. Now I'm curious what your story would sound like. So I was all set, right? My sister and I got there early because I wanted to be able to see dude roll up. And if I wasn't like what I seen, I told her to pull off. Yes, I did, y'all. Again, don't judge me. So I was looking, right? I was like waiting, because we were in like a parking lot area where we were gonna meet up. So I was waiting, and finally we see this. I was like, oh gosh, there's an SUV coming, right? So I see this SUV roll up, and then I'm like, okay, he's here. He opens the door and gets out, y'all. When I say my jaw hit the floor, I have legitimately never seen somebody that looks like that in person. He was like one of the finest specimen I have literally laid my eyes on in life. I mean, 6'4", caramel skin, bald head, whitest teeth, like mustache and goatee. I mean, gorgeous. I was like, what in the blue blade? I remember sitting there like staring, and then being like, Stacy, get yourself together, girl. Like, I legit think you're drooling. Get yourself together. Calm your nerves. Even my sister was like, wow. Right? So again, my sister left. This is my older sister. My sister left. Hence the name of this episode. Yes. So my sister left because I was like, I'm good. You can go now. Right? So we go into the movie theater. Y'all, when I say I'm not exaggerating, every single woman that we walked by craned their neck to look at him. I mean, what in the world? Like, I was seeing this. I felt like I was walking down the street with like the newest supermodel, right? Because he was that level. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I had a picture to this day, but I became like a picture hound later in life. So I feel like, man, if I had a picture, people would be able to see what I'm talking about. So in any event, we go into the movies, and even the lady taking the tickets was staring at him and then handing us the tickets, whatever. And again, he didn't just have that; he had the voice. So we got into the movie theater, And we're sitting next to each other, and I'm literally, y'all, sitting like this. No word of a lie. Like, I couldn't look over at him. I was looking straight at the screen. He leans over to me and he says, "Do you want anything?" And I literally was like, and he's like, "From the concession stand." From the concession stand. And I was like, you can get me something to drink. And I was like, and then whatever you want to get is fine. I'm allergic to nuts, though. Whatever you want to get is fine. I literally was like, my brain was like, ksh, ksh, ksh. So when he leaves, right? You're mad at me. What did I do? I Somebody, I think Cheryl said, "I bet you forget the name of the movie. If you paid me $1 million, I couldn't tell you what that movie was." Not even the slightest. I could not tell you what that movie was to save my life. So he went to go to the concession stand. Why did the girl that was sitting in the row in front of us turn around? She's like, "Girl, that's you? My God." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Woo, I'm saying." She was like, "That is something." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree with you." I agree with you. So anyways, we went and the movie, the date was fine. It was perfect. He actually was like, we were just planning on going to the movies, which is, by the way, not a good first date. For me, it was more about the safety of the date. And I didn't know what he looked like, so it's dark. Y'all, I was petty. I was in my 20s. Very superficial. I was very, very superficial. I'm not going to lie about that. So in any event, we ended up dating for a good while. Like, a very good while. But then what started to happen is, because we were in our 20s, I would say I was probably about 25, 6-ish, maybe around that time. And prior to that, so this is when I'm going to start talking a little bit about before and after. Prior to that, I had a real issue with self-confidence, a real issue feeling attractive, a real issue never thinking that I was pretty, right? So when you go through college and you have like sprinklings of men that you're dating or whatever, and that say you're attractive, but they don't really treat you like that, it does mess with your confidence. And right before him, I ended up finding out the guy that I was dating was married. I had no idea. Mind you, there was nothing. Don't worry, nothing happened. But again, I had no idea because he was literally living a double life. He was up here working. His family lived in Virginia. He's up here working. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I met this guy who's like about his business and building a whole thing, and then found out that he was married. So that was trash, right? So my confidence at this point is shot. I don't trust my picker. I don't trust my ability to be in a relationship. I don't think I'm attractive. All these things are congealing in one. So I'm meeting this man who, for lack of better terms, is like an Adonis, right? Is like the Zulu warrior of Zulu warriors as far as his attractiveness level and his swag and his presence and all those things. And he loved God. I mean, when I say it was the package, but when you get a package and you are afraid to open it, or you get a package and the package that you are is not in a space to really even know what to do with it, that's when these types of things happen, right? You're putting your hand on your head, Tiffany. Are you praying for me? So how did this relationship end up not working? Because when I say that to this day, I cannot say that there was one thing that man did that was negative toward me, or mean, or petty, or not gentlemanly. There, nothing. Like, I, to this day, will never say that about him. However, that being said, I fumbled the ball, y'all. I fumbled the ball. because there are times that we ask God for things, we pray for things, we may fast about things, we may ask other people to pray in conjunction with us, we may, literally lay on our face before God and cry out, soak our pillows till we have to throw them out and get a new one, whatever it is, right? We might do all of these things. However, if you're not prepared for the blessing, which is, I've talked to you guys about that before, we often pray for blessings, but we don't pray to be prepared when we get it. What is it that we do with it? So if you're asking God, for a thing, and it doesn't have to be a person, it could be a person, but it could be a new home, it could be a new car, it could be a new job, it could be favor, whatever it is that you've been asking God for. Let me stop you before you continue on and ask you, have you prepared to receive it? Because I don't want you to fumble the ball. I don't want you to fumble the ball. I think that happens more often than people are willing to admit, than people think about. But this, I almost told you his name because it's written down on my all names are changed to protect the innocent. But this gentleman, like I said, was a good guy. What started to happen, because people often, when I share this story, people often ask, like, what was the breakdown? What happened where either your self-confidence affected or changed, or how did that influence it? And I can't say that it was fully my self-confidence, though that 100% had to do with it. It was also the fact that I was in a stage, because of the age that I was in, I was really trying to figure out myself financially and employment wise and career wise. I was like, okay, what is it that you're doing? You need to figure out what you're doing. And he was also in that, he was a bit older than me, but he was also in that space of trying to figure out what it was that he was doing. And he was actually changing from one type of field to another. And that's also, so he had to work out to get into this particular industry or particular field, because he had to have, fitness tests and what have you. And so there was a lot of time that he was spending doing that. And some of those times were times that we had allotted to spend together. So for me, what was happening is, even though I knew logically what he was doing made sense and had to happen, the parts of me that weren't healed as a kid, that felt, abandoned or rejected or not loved, whatever those things, or however those things were still manifesting, 100% choked out, or they played tricks with my mind. So he's working out, and I'm like, oh, I bet you he's like dating his, person he's working out with, right? Or, I mean, just the level of insecurity that I had was not something that would allow any blessing to be sustained, right? You can't sustain a blessing with like, it would be like me trying to catch a football, but having, also, so like, what did you say? Crisco on my hands, right? The ability for me to hold on to it it's slim to none. And maybe if I do kind of hold on to it, am I going to be able to keep it? Because it's going to slip around and bounce around and all those things. And my insecurity was 100% a huge portion of that. And I think even though he tried to like be patient, and he really did try to he tried to be patient, and he tried to like, I don't want to say love me through it, but he did try to be patient with me in that. As I was growing, he could see that was an issue. I had talked to him about, the fact that I hadn't felt pretty growing up. I still was in the space that I didn't really feel that all that attractive. And he was like, basically like, telling me all the things that anybody would love to hear, right? But not just telling me those things because I knew, because of how he was saying them and then the actions that he would do to follow up, that he really meant what he was saying. Honestly, I never knew that we had to prepare. Yeah, we do have to prepare for blessings. Like if you, for example, I'm going to give you a perfect example. When people are looking to buy a home, there are so many things that you do to prepare to be able to be qualified for the home. So you look at your credit, you look to see if it's okay. If it's shot, then you have to do some repairs. Maybe you have to make some phone calls or send some letters to get some of the things off your credit report. So you look at all 3 credit bureaus and all the agencies and make sure the things are all looking the same. And then maybe you get a credit card to build up your credit a little bit. And then on top of that, maybe, you know, you and your spouse or whatever look together to see, okay, does one person want to buy it based on what their history is, or do we want to buy it jointly? There's a lot of work that goes into it. Getting a loan. Who do you go to as a loan officer? Who's going to provide that? Are there additional fees you have to think about? Do you need to get a home inspection? There's so many things that you do to prepare for that, you know. However, people don't think about it in terms of other blessings that you may be asking God for. If you, for example, have been, you know, as you get older, we get more and more set in our ways. We have more and more things that we have determined this is the way that it should be for me. So now that you are older and you're trying to get married, or you're trying to partner with someone to get to know them to then get married, or whatever the case is, right? Or just as you're starting to date, it is important for you to be able to communicate what it is that your needs are, but it's also equally important for you to listen to what the things are. So, for example, if you are the type, so I had a boyfriend, I think I told you, I had a boyfriend that, or a guy that I was dating, I don't want to call this man my boyfriend, whatever, a guy that I dated back in the day, that when he would mess up, he would buy me things. So there was one time he messed up and I was just over it, right? I was like, I'm done. And when I say he got me the biggest bouquet of roses in the history of roses, and it was the weekend I was supposed to see my sister in college. So here I am on the train with this ginormous vase full of huge roses. I've never even seen roses that big. But for me, I didn't want something like that. I want you to not act a fool. That's what I want. Don't act a fool. Don't get me roses that now I associate with I'm sorry roses. So I think there is a measure of preparation we have to do for everything. We have to make sure that we are communicating properly. We have to make sure that we're, listening more than we talk, which for many of us, that can be an issue, right? We also have to be observant. What are the things that person likes? I will tell you, one of the things that a lot of women will say to me is, Stacey, this guy's not romantic or whatever. And oftentimes that may be true, but it's also because men often have not adopted, I'm going to do things that she likes. They do things that they like. And okay, I'm buy her a card. Well, you got me 6 cards, so that's not even original. There's no real thought in that. Did you make me a card? Okay, cool. That's different. I appreciate that. There was thought, you got all the different types of paper and you cut things out and you whatever, you actually wrote out the card. That's a little bit more inventive, but we also have to recognize that there are different love languages and people are going to show up different ways. So it becomes more challenging. We may be asking God for that person, but have you prepared for what that person, what is the box that person may come in? And have you done that? Are you willing to flex on anything, or does it have to be your way? Because let me tell you, that ain't gonna work. So that's something that you have to prepare for. But I know this time. Yeah. And I think that's a lesson all of us need to know. I didn't do it either, clearly. Hence the fumble, right? But this is the thing, even though I, took a risk in getting to know him, and I could have been catfish, y'all. This is before catfish was even really a coined term. I could have been entirely catfished. But what this, what this did tell me is in order to be blessed in the ways that we're looking for, whatever it is, in whatever capacity, whether it's in a home or for a spouse or for whatever, right? For a new job, we need to make sure that we've done our work in healing, right? And obviously this is about my healing journey in its entirety. But we can't move throughout the world. We can't move through life being broken, being fractured. It doesn't work in any capacity. I don't care what it is. If you're looking for a new job, like you guys know I am as well, I'm looking for a new opportunity, but it's important for me to heal from some of the things that people have done to me in different workplaces. People have taken advantage of me. They've devalued me. I've allowed it. So I have to forgive myself for allowing some of these negative things to happen to me in spaces that I was in. And that sometimes is the hardest thing for people. Like, Stacy, what were you thinking? How did you allow for somebody to devalue you in a way? But you talk to all these people about being your best self and showing up for yourself, but you consistently allowed for people to devalue. And I'm not talking about financially, though. Let's be honest. That happens all the time as well, right? But I'm talking about like literally taking my work and then making it theirs. I'm talking about those types of things. And many of us have allowed that in a lot of spaces. Why? Because sometimes we're like, oh, this is, we got to pay our dues, or, this is just how things go. No. What we need to be doing is saying, God, I was devalued in that situation, and you need to speak to that situation, because I don't even know how to give me the clarity about how I need to go about this, what I need to do moving forward. God, heal me from all these feelings that I'm feeling anger at myself for letting it happen. I'm feeling anger at these people for taking advantage of me, but I want this new opportunity. And so in order to get that, I know I have to get that out. So when I go back into my childhood, I think about, those times where, I even as a little kid, I was very performative in that I felt like I had to earn people's affection. So let me do a song and dance. Let me get all A's. Let me do the most. Because if I don't do that, if I'm just showing up as my regular baseline self, that is not enough. No one will be interested. No one will see me. So let me be performative. That activity 100% carries throughout life. I can see all the points. Like if I look at me as an elementary school student, same thing. And yes, was, getting good grades a good thing? Yes. But what was my reasoning? It wasn't for me. I wasn't like, oh, let me do this. I really was doing it so my dad would be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But that's not his zhuzh. He was not going to be doing that. He was just like, okay, cool. And I was like, cool? What do you mean? I got all A's. He'd look at it and be like, okay, that's good. Good job. Sometimes he'd say good job. But most times he was just like, yeah, that's like, and he never said it, but in what I was hearing was, what do you want, a cookie for doing what you're supposed to do? Like, what do you want a pat on the back? Good job. Great. So good. Yes. And amen. So true. But what I think that it's super important. It's super important for us to remember this, right? When we get things, we have to, and I'm talking about opportunities, relationships, new homes, whatever it is, we have to make sure that we are prepared on, 5 different levels. And obviously based on what it is, they might change. So we have to make sure we're mentally prepared for that thing. We're emotionally prepared for that thing. We're spiritually prepared for that thing. We're physically prepared for it. And we're financially prepared for it. Okay? And for all those things, I think that accounts, right? Because even if it's a man or, you're trying to get in a relationship, I don't know if I have any fellas on here. If you're trying to get into a relationship, it costs, right? Relationships ain't cheap. They ain't cheap. So all of those things, you have to be physically in a place where you can enjoy having a relationship or having that house or, getting that new job, right? You don't want to be, and let me tell you, from as a person that is, dealing with knee pain, which I believe that I'm delivered from and I'm waiting for the manifestation of. But when you're waiting for that and your knee is still not presenting in the best way, those are things you think about. Those are the types of things that you're like, okay, God, give me some direction, give me some clarity. What are the things that I need to do, et cetera, et cetera. Because he wants us to fully enjoy the blessings. He doesn't want to give you the blessing and then you just sit there looking at it. What am I supposed to do with this? Why, God, you gave me a house with 2 stories, which, God, I'm asking for a 1-story house, but God, you gave me this house with 2 stories. Well, if you put an elevator in it, then I'm fine, Lord. I'm fine. But those are the types of things that we need to be thinking about. And I'm also really clear about the fact that you need to be very, when you pray for things, when you're asking God for things, you need to be very clear on specifics, y'all. Don't be saying, Lord, just send me a man. He'll send you a man. That's what okay. Be prepared. can say. You might want to tell him some of the things that, and I'm not talking about superficial. If that's what you want to say to him, though, he knows you already. So he already knows what's in your head. But you need to talk about the integrity of a person, right? I'll be the cleaner if you got my 2-story. Got a 2-story house. Well, hey, it's not even about that. It's about going up and down the stairs, girl. That's what I'm talking about. But I noted, noted. You're already hired. You are hired. But the other thing that I want you to understand, and I'm sorry, I had to take off my glasses because y'all, I'm trying to read this and reading, and it ain't working out. But the other thing that I want you to understand is this. And a lot of this, when this was given to me, and I was delivering this because I first delivered it on TikTok. But when I was thinking about this particular topic and thinking about that fumble of the gentleman that I mentioned, right? There's a thing that you have to be careful of when you're doing your healing journey. The purpose of it is to go back and heal things. It's to uncover things. It's to unearth things that you've worked really hard at keeping contained, right? But it is not meant for you to go back in time and kick yourself. Right? So my first instinct was to kick myself. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, really, Stacey? Like, but again, youth is wasted on the young. If I had the mentality that I have now, lots of things in my life would have been different. Lots of ways that I carried myself would have been different. Lots of opportunities would have presented as different, but that's not where we are, and that was not the reality. So you can't go back in time and, beat yourself up for choices that you made then, because whatever it was led you to where you are now, and God is using you in the space and in the time that you are in right now. But one of the things that I had to take from this was, because I was looking at all the relationships that kind of led up to this one in particular. And, again, not feeling pretty and not having that as a thing. And, I think lots of girls grew up feeling like that. I mean, I was a tomboy, so I wasn't really interested in that initially. But I was looking at any affection that I had as a kid, and I was kind of like, really trying to pull from that. And my family's not a super huggy family, so when people hug me even to this day, I'm like, okay. I've gotten a lot more used to it, let me tell you, because we're not that. And I think a lot of me not feeling like that warmth or that affection led to me making choices or not feeling like I even deserved that type of a thing, if that makes any sense to you all. But I also was able to look at this and know that timing means so much, right? Because again, like I said, what you would do with the knowledge you have now is very different than what you did in the moment. So one of the things that I had to pull away from this, and I was so glad that God gave me this thought, and I've mentioned it, I believe, before in different contexts, but in certain circumstances, what happens is that God presents people in your life, situations in your life, opportunities in your life that are only meant to be booster rockets. That is all they're meant to be, right? And a booster rocket, for all of us who know, is their job is to literally push the rocket up. That is their only job. They have one assignment, one job. It's they start shaking, they get things moving, as far as, so they get basically all the cobwebs, all the gunk out, right? But its job literally is to have extreme pressure, extreme fire, to then push the rocket up. There are some circumstances, there are some people, there are some opportunities that was all they were meant to do for you. Now, even looking back, because again, looking back, you might be filled with regrets about opportunities that you feel like you fumbled, but the reality of it is, it was all in a unique design to propel you forward. So that is one job of these opportunities that we feel like we dropped, but they were really meant to catapult us, to push us forward. The second thing is that it is a reminder that time is important and not to be wasted. I hear so many times people say, time is precious. Obviously, typically when people pass away, time is precious. You can't, you got to make sure that you do the things you want to do. Okay, well, So does that only apply for when people pass away, or like, are you planning to like the goals that you've been saying and sharing? And okay, I just want to know. Just want to know, because again, those are the same things I've had to ask these are the same questions that I've had to ask myself when God gave this to me. So, I had to say to myself, okay, Stacey, you've been saying you want to do this, that, and the other. You want to travel, you want to do this, you want to do that. So like, when is that kicking in exactly? When do you plan on doing that? Because time does not wait for any person. Time waits for no man, and that's a real thing. We've all lived it. We all see it. We look back, and I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. So the reality is that time waits for no man, and it doesn't feel necessarily, because I don't know what that feels like, but I'm living in my reality now, and it doesn't. I can remember everything about being in college still, but time keeps marching. It keeps marching. So remember that as you're asking God for these things, and as he's making a way for you, to not take advantage that time is going to continue to just persist and be given to us, right? We don't know. The next thing is that we need to force the other thing that happens is with separation, or not having an opportunity or a person or whatever it is that we've wanted. It does force us to face areas where we need to shift. And it's sometimes shifting in our mentality, right? No man wants to be with a woman who's constantly like, I'm ugly, I'm not pretty. And they might deal with it for a while, but after a while, that junk is old. Just like you don't want to deal with a man who's like constantly wants to compare you to his mom. Oh, you don't cook like my mom. You don't do this like my mom. You'd be like, well, then go to your mom, right? So there's a point in time where we have to work on us. We have to work on our mind. The Bible says protect your heart and mind. It says it very explicitly and specifically, because if you don't protect your heart and mind, all sorts of thoughts come in, all sorts of thoughts that are contrary to what God already told you are, who you are, how you're supposed to show up in the world. And so when we let those things in, and which is why I said it's so important to have that relationship. And when you're in a space like I was in my 20s and I was kind of all over the place, a lot of that was because my mind and heart were not guarded. So all sorts of people, all sorts of things were able to get in there and change how I thought about myself, change how I saw myself, change what I believed that I could be or do, or, changed how I felt in moments. They were emotionally kind of controlling me. So there was so much because I had not guarded my heart and mind. And instead of dealing with the fact that I had years of not feeling like enough, I tried to fill that feeling with people, and with people, with time, with opportunity. If I didn't have to think about it, to me, then it was okay. But here we are now, right? Here we are now on this healing journey where I recognize that trying to manipulate somebody or shift somebody into a role because I'm not doing my work is counterproductive, and it sneaks up on you regardless. It sneaks up on you regardless. And then the other thing that you have to remember is that sometimes the separation is to make sure that you're not putting anything ahead of God. Right? I've told you all that I've had relationships, and in those relationships, I 100% was so addicted to being somebody's girlfriend that person got more time than God. Do you know how dangerous that is? That's why I'm telling you, when it says His grace and mercy follow me, and like I said, I know grace and mercy are sick of me, but I thank God that they're still on the job. But He will continue to give us grace until He doesn't. I don't want to know when that day is. I don't want to be in the line for my daily dose of grace, and He's like, "Yeah, your limit has been reached. your grace limit has been exceeded." And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. Can I borrow from somebody else's account?" A lot of what we do can be ego driven, right? Having the nice house that everybody talk. Oh my gosh, do you see where they live? Having that fine boyfriend, and he was, y'all, fine. So having that, was that an ego boost? Because everybody was like, and he was all about Stacey. Again, Was that an ego boost? 100%. But could I have easily gotten so enraptured in that God became, not a priority, fully secondary? So that's a dangerous place. And you want to make sure of that. But that one who got away, and I know I only have a couple of minutes, I want to bring two things to your attention. When we talk about the one that got away, more often than not, the one that got away is you. Because I want you to think about this. How easy has it been for you to lose yourself? Lose yourself in responsibility, lose yourself in situations, lose yourself in a person, lose yourself in hurt, lose yourself in desperation, lose yourself because of a loss of a loved one. I mean, we can so easily lose ourselves in situation, in circumstance, and then we're not caring for ourselves. We're not showing up for ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, or financially. We're just existing, and that's not enough. When you have all these things that you're looking for, right? And you're still feeling empty, there's a reason for that. Because things don't fill the place of God. So that's the other thing that you have to be careful about. And the most important thing is, when the one who got away is God, you're in a very precarious situation. That can never be the case. The one that got away being God is the most dangerous place for you to be. The most dangerous place. Why? And I get it. People will say to me, well, Stacey, you don't understand. I've gone through so much hurt. I do understand. I understand when people are hurt, why they lash out, right? Why, I've heard people say, well, if God really cared about me, then I wouldn't have had this experience. And, if God really cared about me, then my child wouldn't have passed away, or my child wouldn't have had this experience, or my mom wouldn't have suffered, or there's so many things that you can put in a position of that, right? The world that we live in, and God or Jesus dying on the cross, does not eliminate us from having the human experience. The human experience is going to be what it is. What he did allow for us is to have forever in paradise. So it's our retirement plan, so to speak, right? So that's what it was. He didn't say we're going to live a life not having to deal with sin. He came here and had to deal with sin. He was without sin, but he had to deal with it happening around him. He had to deal with disturbances constantly. His spirit always being disrupted. All those things existed with him, and he had to manage those things. And while we are definitely not him by any stretch of the imagination, there's a very real reason why there's a desire to get us so focused on things and stuff and opportunity and feeling like we got slighted. We can get so focused and like mentally wrapped in that. You're not thinking about God. You're not thinking about that. The fact that even though you lost that opportunity, even though you lost that person, that feeling of loss, you experience it. God has a perfect and well-designed and strategic plan for your life. Yes, does it hurt? Yes, does it stink? 100%. Have I been like, okay, God, it's your girl. What's going on? What's good? Because this right here, this plan right here, I know you're working and yes, I know that it all works for my good because I love you and I'm called. However, that being said, is there some fine print that I didn't read? Because this plan seems to be like my plan and potentially a couple other folks' plan. So like, did they sign my name, forge my name somewhere? Because yeah, right. So I get it. I get when people are feeling overwhelmed. I get when people are feeling, they've lost someone. That for a lot of people is a really big disconnection point. Well, God did this to me. No, none of us are going to escape that. Is it scary sometimes to think about? 100%. Is it our reality? Absolutely. The other thing that you have to make sure that, as you're thinking about, have you lost yourself? It is very easy for those of you who are parents to lose yourself in parenting. But you and God is the most important relationship. You and God is the most critical relationship, because without that, you cannot have soundness of mind. You can't be a good parent. You can't, I mean, all the things that it takes to parent are so difficult, are so emotionally challenging, are so stress filled. Always. Not when your kid turns, when they turn 18, you're like, oh, done, right? So it is so imperative that you make sure that your relationship with him stays so tight. So tight. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. But I want to make sure, as I wrap up, because I know I'm almost at time right now. I just want to make sure that you're thinking about when you're thinking about the one that got away. It's easy to fixate on an opportunity that you feel missed. It's easy to fixate on a person that you felt like was your person, and it's challenging because we live in this body and we experience pain, we experience connection, and then when things don't work out, even if it's a job or whatever, we feel the loss of that thing. And then oftentimes what our first instinct is to say, what did I do wrong? It's not always something that we've done wrong. Sometimes it is, and we have to take accountability for that. But sometimes it's God saying, I need to move this out of your way because, one, you're too stubborn to move even though I told you to. Two, it is toxic for you, and I don't want that for you. And three, I have something way better for you. You are dreaming way too small. You asked for a house, and I want to give you a mega mansion, but you keep your mind so wrapped in this tiny thing. If I can do this, if I can, work 1,000,000 hours to get to this space, then I'll be able to. You're not having to earn his blessings. That's what's so awesome about him. He gives them to you. You don't earn them. All he asks is very specific things. And if we can make sure that we're focused on that, and it's not always easy. And I understand that it can be challenging and hard when the world around us seems to not honor that. It seems so focused on other things. I get that. But if we can focus on that, and I'm in the we, then God is going to open up the windows of heaven and pour us out blessings that we will not have room enough to receive. But we need to do what? Prepare for those windows to open. Some of us right now need to lean against the window until we're prepared. Because God's math is amazing. He doesn't do addition. He does multiplication. Everything's exponential with him. All right. Well, I'm not preaching. I'm done. I'm done. All right. So with that, I hope this was helpful. Hopefully you know that, the one that got away, sometimes it was God's plan. And we need to look back on that and dissect it for ourselves. Own the parts that were us. Forgive ourselves, because I think oftentimes that's another thing is like, man, you had this opportunity, you fumbled it. Okay, you did, but you're still here, which means life is still in you, which means God is still here working in and through you. So continue to let him do that, but forgive yourself for that, because I know a lot of people hold on to those, man, I was stupid of me moments. But other than that, honored that you guys decided to spend time with me, even though it's overtime. I appreciate that so much. As I always say, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and extend to yourself and please to me a measure of grace. I will see you next Saturday on episode 33 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Bye, everyone.